Today's going to be a little bit more of a personal video and just kind of noticing some things along this DNA journey that have come up that I wanted to give you a little bit of an update around and share some of what's been coming up. Welcome, I'm Peggy Oliveira. Thank you so much for joining me. So if you are new here or haven't heard yet, but a year and a half ago, I found out through ancestry 23andMe that the man I thought was my biological father is not. And prior to that, prior to testing with 23andMe, I never thought really that he wasn't. I never had reason to think that he wasn't. And so since learning that definitively, I have been searching for information to try to discover who he is. And given my age, given his likely age, I really didn't know if I'd be able to figure out who he was. I certainly didn't anticipate that he would still be living, and didn't really have any idea what to expect, really. So a year and a half ago, my sister ended up testing per my request, and it was confirmed that we are not full sisters, full biological sisters. And so on this search, I've had help. There's a Facebook group in which I've had a few different people that have really helped me sort through a lot of different things. And while I'm not necessarily where I ultimately would like to be, because I don't have a definitive answer, in a sense, I'm further along than I think a lot of people would be at this point. And so I am very grateful for that. And as I say that, it kind of makes me think a little bit about the similarities to healing, how there can be a lot that happens in a relatively short period of time, like a year and a half. And yet, because we're not where we want to be, we feel like not a lot has really happened. But there's been some different processes that have happened in getting to where I am. But ultimately, where I am at this particular time is that I believe that I likely have a name of who my biological father is. Now, I don't know for sure because nobody close enough to him has tested. But given a lot of different circumstances, conversations that I've had that have given me those circumstances, it seems, based on ages and timing and lots of different things, that I believe that I do know his name. And I have tried to contact him several times, trying to find different points of connection or contact information for him, and everything that I've tried I don't believe is working. I sometimes get just the very generic voicemails, and I don't leave messages on those because I have no idea who it actually is. So I haven't been able to actually connect with him or anybody really close to him yet. So I believe I'm at a point where my next step is likely going to be having to hire a private investigator to get up-to-date contact information. So what I do know about this person, who I believe might be my biological father, we share a birthday month. He has 2 male children, and who are both younger than me. One is about a year younger than me, and the other one is a few years younger than me. And they still live in the area that I was born in. And the man I believe is my biological father moved away from there and back to Texas, actually. And I was born in Illinois, near Chicago. I've seen a picture, and He has curly hair, which I thought was really kind of interesting because some of you will know that my hair has not always been curly. It started getting curly, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago or so. It kind of started and it's gotten curlier as time has gone on. But he has curly hair, and that's about all I really know specifically about him. So part of what has been interesting about this process is that part of what helped really kind of narrow down the likelihood of it being this man is that about a year ago or so, somebody reached out to me through my Facebook page, my Courageous Journeys Facebook page, and said what her name is and said, I don't know if you'll remember me, but she was actually a really good friend of my mom's. And I couldn't, up till that point, I couldn't remember her name because I had been trying to think about who are my mom's friends that I might be able to talk to try to find information, because my mom died 32 years ago. So obviously couldn't ask her. And I had forgotten this person's name. I remembered her, but I couldn't remember her name. And so she reached out and we ended up having a conversation last July. And she ended up sharing a lot of things with me that I'm still kind of processing in some ways. But one of the things that she shared with me is where my mom liked to spend time. And in a conversation that I ended up having with somebody that I believe I'm connected to, it turns out that this man spent a lot of time there. And several people that knew him spent a lot of time there during the time that my mom was spending time there. And so that kind of helped narrow that down. It also helped in terms of his age versus some of his brother's ages who I thought could potentially be my father, because they were pretty young at the time. So I hope it's not them. So all of that combined is part of why we narrowed it down to him. So that's kind of the update of where things are with finding my biological father. And hopefully I'll have more of an update relatively soon. Now, what has been kind of interesting is what this has kind of all brought up. And I talked about this a little bit before when I shared this, but it was kind of early at that time. And one of the things that I noticed right away really is that since this has come up, I've certainly been thinking about my mom a lot more than I had previously, and thinking about her in like some different ways, not in negative ways, but just having different memories kind of come to the surface, and thinking about a relationship a little bit, not necessarily differently, but more so than I probably had in quite some time. Like the last 2 Christmases, because I think I did know before Christmas of 2022, have been a little bit more challenging because my mom died on Christmas Day. So she's been more present for me around the holidays over the last couple of years than in the previous several, because it has been so long since she died. And in a more, I guess, kind of like melancholy sort of way. And so that's been kind of present generally. Since having this conversation with her friend, certainly I've been thinking about her a lot more. I've actually been thinking a lot more about my father, the man who I thought was my biological father. And I don't say specifically the man who raised me, because he didn't actually really raise me. My parents separated when I was like 4, I think. And I spent, I don't know if it was every weekend, every other weekend for a while, mostly with his wife. So he didn't really raise me, so that's why I don't refer to him in that way. But he's still the man that I thought was my father. So in this conversation that I had with my mom's friend, she shared some things about both my mom and dad that really surprised me. And one of the things that she shared was about how kind of diligent my mom was when it came to, like, I think she had gone into the hospital at some point, and I guess maybe knew she was going to the hospital. And I was going to be staying with this person for about a week or so. And my mom actually packed my clothes in separate bags and labeled them for which day I was to wear them. And that really surprised me because I don't have experience of my mom being like that. Like, I have no memory of my mom really being like that. My mom was a bit of a hoarder compared to a lot of things you've probably seen, kind of maybe a little bit more on the milder end, but still a hoarder nonetheless. Not particularly organized, that sort of thing. And so to hear that, and honestly, even to hear the attention that she put into something related to me was surprising. And I mean, I know that she loved me. I believe that she did. I didn't believe that my entire life, but I do believe that. So kind of wrapping my head around that reality was kind of interesting. She also shared with me that that I was a daddy's girl. She actually, I'm almost positive that those are the words that she said, that I was a daddy's girl. And that was not only really kind of shocking in a sense, but it also really kind of made me feel sad. Not in the moment so much, but when I reflected upon it, I kind of felt quite a bit of sadness because of the grief around the reality of what it meant to not really have him in my life. And he died less than a year later than my mom, after my mom died. But she talked about me being a daddy's girl, and that I would just, he used to play the guitar and the banjo, and that I would sit there and just watch him play, and I would sit on his lap and stuff like that. And I have no memory of that whatsoever. Now, this would have been during a time before my parents separated, because she didn't really see me with my father after my parents separated. So that would have been like 4 years old. So I have no actual memory really of any of that. And so that was kind of interesting. So learning all of this, and this is kind of what we do when we're really coming to terms with the reality of the trauma that we've experienced, particularly as young children, or children generally, really, when we've had a relationship with the abuser, right? And we kind of go back and replay things, and we're questioning things and just trying to make sense, like, how do we fit all of this into what we remember? And so that really has been pretty present for me. Fortunately, for the most part, I really don't feel a lot of grief or heavy grief. I don't feel particularly sad. I feel determined to figure out who he is. But it's just interesting how there are so many different things that end up coming up as a result of this, as a result of looking at things through a very different lens. And this kind of goes along a little bit with the video that I shared a couple of weeks ago in regards to having those moments when you just see something a little bit differently. And that's kind of part of what this is, because I'm looking at it with kind of a whole new understanding in some ways. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. In some ways, it can be a really good thing, but it can still be hard and challenging, difficult, and even sad at times. So I'm mainly sharing this with you because in the beginning of this discovery, I said that I would be sharing what was going on, and I actually haven't shared in a while because I kept hoping that I would have some more definitive answers. But as this continues to go on, I'm realizing that it is taking a little bit longer. So for those of you that were around when I shared, I wanted to provide a little bit of an update. And I also just, in terms of what's been coming up for me as a result of it, it has been really present for me. So I thought that I would share it with you. So wish me luck. If you happen to know a good private investigator that you've used in the San Antonio, Texas area, let me know. But I will share when there is something new to share with you. And I know some of you have commented on my videos, and I've even gotten some private messages from people just kind of maybe who have been through something similar. And I appreciate your support and your encouraging words. And again, if you've got a similar story or inspirational kinds of things that you'd like to share in this type of journey, please feel free to share it. And seriously, if you know a good PI in San Antonio, let me know. So thank you to everybody for your interest and certainly any concern that you have. But while it is difficult, I am okay. And I know that I will be okay no matter what the outcome is. And I really am just, it's more of kind of like kind of an excited thing to know. And I don't have any expectation of what would happen once I know. I'm not looking to have a relationship with him or anything like that. I just really want to know, because the way my mind works, no matter what it is, I do not like unanswered questions. And so I want to know. So thank you for being here along with me on this journey, and I will keep you posted. Thanks again for being here and being part of this community. I'll look forward to seeing you next time.